This video we're going to talk about Maekar I, the 14th Targaryen king to rule Westeros. Maekar came to the throne in 221 AC when his brother King Aerys I died of natural causes. If you want to learn more about Aerys or the kings that came before him, you can click on the playlist in the description below and learn about all the other kings. Maekar was the fourth son of King Daeron II and never thought he'd rule Westeros as their king. Maekar had a stern, unforgiving nature that was only made worse after he killed his eldest brother, Baelor, and heir to the throne, in a terrible accident during a trial of 7. He had violet eyes, hair so pale it was almost white, with a hint of gold, a square-cut beard, a warrior's body, and pock marks that scarred his cheeks. Even though he was very judgmental, he was also an energetic and notable warrior. When Maekar came to the throne, he had a new crown made for him, with black iron points and a band of red gold. It's said he did that to break away from the past and create a crown similar to Aegon the Conqueror, since the original crown was lost when Daeron I died in Dorne. Despite being a warrior, there was mostly peace in the realm, so he didn't get to use his warrior skills too much. He had fought in 2 Blackfire rebellions before ascending to the throne, but for now, the Blackfire pretenders pose no threat to the realm. And for being such a great warrior and the Blackfire rebellions that came before, the only real problem that happened during Maekar's rule was succession. He had 4 sons and 2 daughters with his wife Diana Dane: Daeron, Aerion, Aemon, Aegon, Daela, and Rhae. His eldest son, Prince Daeron, was a drunkard that preferred drinking and women to any responsibility. Prince Daeron once shaved his youngest brother's head and hid him from their escorts just so he could avoid participating in a tournament and instead drink. He preferred the title of Prince of Summerhall rather than Prince of Dragonstone, since he found Dragonstone to be too gloomy for his taste and just not fun enough. He did eventually have a daughter named Vela in 222 AC, but she wasn't very clever, and some people actually called her simple or stupid. Daeron died of pox he caught from a whore before his father Maekar died. Maekar's next son, Aerion Brightflame, was a complete piece of work, and if you want to know how much of a piece of work he is, you should watch my Dunk and Egg Part 1. He was temperamental, egotistical, moody, and cruel. He was convinced that he was a dragon stuck in this human body, and died before his father Maekar. He swallowed a cup of wildfire thinking it would make him become the dragon that was inside him. Before he died, Aerion had a son who he named Maegor in 232 AC, which is a pretty terrible name if you know King Maegor, the 3rd Targaryen king to rule Westeros, which was a very bloodthirsty man known as Maegor the Cruel, and people were a little weary that the child would not only have King Maegor's temperament, but Aerion's cruel temperament as well. Maekar's 3rd son was named Aemon, who went to the Citadel as a child and became a maester. He was very intelligent, bookish, and if you read the books, you know him as Maester to the Night's Watch at Castle Black, and if you watch the show, you would recognize him here.
They called the Mad King.
You're Aemon Targaryen.
I'm a master of the Citadel.
He's lived so long in Game of Thrones that people have forgotten he actually has Targaryen blood. So Aemon is a maester and has vows that he won't ever take to the throne and rule, so he's kind of out of the question. And then the youngest son of Maekar was Aegon, often called Egg. Aegon traveled all over Westeros as a squire to a hedge knight named Sir Duncan the Tall, the same hedge knight that was defended by Baelor Breakspear, who died in the trial by 7 when Maekar accidentally dealt a mortal blow to the back of his head. Finally, after a mostly peaceful rule of about 12-13-ish years, Maekar died from being crushed to death by a rock thrown from the battlements of Starpike in 233 AC. He was leading an army to take care of a rebellious lord in the Dornish marshes. And so he died, and then the issue of succession became a problem. His 2 eldest were out, the 3rd boy was a maester, and the 4th boy was considered half a peasant from spending most of his youth traveling with the hedge knight as a squire. And people didn't really trust him that much, and Aegon, as that squire, tended to meddle a lot in lords' businesses, and they held a little bit of a grudge. So just like back with Jaehaerys, 100 lords came to King's Landing in 233 AC to decide who would succeed the throne. There were 4 choices: Daemon's simple-minded daughter, Vaela, Aeryn's son, Maegor, Maester Aemon, or Aegon. Vaela was dismissed as a choice almost immediately, just being simple-minded and a female, and they have that Iron President, so they were gonna gloss over her. Aeryn's son Maegor was just an infant, and many feared the problems of a long regency, and others feared that he may have inherited his father's cruelty. And if you remember with Aegon III, the long regencies really don't work well, and it's mostly just lords vying for power, and it just becomes a whole cluster mess. They were so desperate not to put Aegon on the throne because they mistrusted him so much that they even went to Maester Aemon. He refused to be released from his maester vows. So that ended up leaving only Aegon, with many distrusting him. Before they completely decided on Aegon, another claim came forward for a stake on the throne. Aenys Blackfyre, the 5th son of Daemon Blackfyre's 7 sons. And if you remember, Daemon Blackfyre is the bastard son who was legitimized by Aegon the Unworthy, Aegon IV, and caused all sorts of issues with the Blackfyre Rebellion. So Aenys Blackfyre is Daemon's 5th son. He ends up writing to the Great Council from Tyrosh, requesting an audience for his ascension to the throne. Aenys Blackfyre hoped, with words not swords, he could finally win the throne for the Blackfyres. The Hand of the King, Bloodraven, offered him safe conduct to present his claim in person. But it was a trap, and when he entered King's Landing, Goldcloak seized him and dragged him to the Red Keep, where his head was removed promptly. This also served as a warning to any lords that were still loyal to the Blacks. So it was decided Aegon, the 4th son of a 4th son, would become the 15th Targaryen king of Westeros. Because he was so unlikely to take the throne, being originally so far down in succession, he was called Aegon the Unlikely. And next week, we'll talk about Aegon V. So make sure you come back next Sunday for Aegon V, and come back on Wednesday when we talk about Dunk and Egg Part 3. Otherwise, make sure you like and subscribe.